We take a break from the start of the European season and head over stateside. It's the first ever Miami Grand Prix. It's the fifth round of the 2022 World Championship, the first race in Miami since the 1950s. Then, of course, 2 weeks' time, we take our trip back to Europe with a double-header. Spain and Monaco round out before back to Azerbaijan on June the 12th. June the 19th sees the Canadian Grand Prix at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit back on the calendar. Round 10 of the season takes us to Silverstone on the opening weekend of July. A week later, we're in Austria for the Red Bull Ring on July the 10th. 2 weeks later, France and Hungary take us back to back and into the summer break, where we'll have a month off before doing a triple header. Belgium, Dutch and Italian Grand Prix on August 28th, September the 4th and September the 11th. A to be confirmed race still in the books, of course, on the 23rd, before on October 2nd we go to Singapore for the night race. Back then over to Japan on October the 9th. 2 week break before Mexico and America on the 23rd, Mexico on the 30th of October. 2 week break and the season rounds out. Season in Sao Paulo on November the 13th and Abu Dhabi on November the 20th. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Charles Leclerc leads the way on 86 points. Max Verstappen is on 59, Sergio Perez on 54. George Russell, with top 5 finishes in every race so far this year, remaining consistent on 49. He's ahead of Carlos Sainz, who's had 2 DNFs back-to-back, both in lap 1, both in the gravel trap. Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton down in 7th position, Bottas 8th, Ocon 9th, and Kevin Magnussen on 15 points rounds out the top 10. On the second page, it's Danny Ricciardo alongside Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso and Zhou Guanyu, along with Alex Albon and Lance Stroll, the last drivers with points. Michael Schumacher Jr., or Mick Schumacher, is on 19 on 0 points, Nico Hülkenberg on 0 and Nicholas Latifi still pointless in 2022. In the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari thought they were walking away with it, but a 1-2 for Red Bull last time out have put them just 11 points back. The fight is on. Mercedes still in 3rd position. They have eked ahead of McLaren after a podium in Italy. Further back, Alfa Romeo are 5th, battling with BWT Alpine F1. AlphaTauri are 7th, Haas are 8th, Aston Martin are 9th on 5 points, and Williams have a point. The first time this early in a Constructors' Championship that every team has scored points. It's final practice for the 2022 Miami Grand Prix. On board then with the Aston Martin, Nick Homewood from EERC is driving us around a lap. Flat out as you approach down towards turn number 1. Brake all the way down, 3rd gear, 55 mile an hour corner for the tight first corner. Rise that up then, 4th gear, 95, 5th gear, 125 round turn 3. Little kinkier down at turn 4 as well as you approach the first real braking zone. 6th gear down to 130 miles an hour, wrist again to 120 as you just literally flying through. Now turn 8, hard on the brakes, 5th gear, 80 miles an hour into the braking zone. Now back on the accelerator at the kink. Now open up, 8th gear, 200 miles an hour flat out through the DRS zone down towards turn 11 and turn 12, down the beach side south and the beach side north as well. After the braking zone, slap on the brakes now into the trickiest part of the track as well. 2nd gear corners as well, around about 50 miles an hour. The apex tightens in on itself as well. Triple apexes before this tight chicane at 14 and 15. It's going to really throw the drivers out, as well as this one. Turn 16, 45 miles an hour. The wall is closer than it looks on R Factor before it widens up on the track as well. Down the back straightaway, already 8th gear, 207 miles an hour in as well. That's what the driver's going to be feeling. They're going to have to slam on the brakes. Down again, 2nd gear into a late braking zone, 45 miles an hour. Last 2 corners, you're building up speed. Turn 18, 5th gear, 125. Turn 19, 7th gear at 170 miles an hour. Cross the line at over 180. That's a lap of Miami. Hello everybody and welcome to Miami for free practice number 3 here at the Miami International Autodrome. It's round 5 of the 2022 season and so far it has been 2 races apiece for Max Verstappen and championship leader Charles Leclerc. We come here to a brand new venue at the Hard Rock Stadium as well, where the Miami Dolphins play their football games as well. Now it's time for a different type of game to be played. 57 laps ahead of us around this 3.361 mile circuit, 5.412 kilometers ahead of us as well. 3 DRS zones, top speed at about 198 miles an hour, over 320 kilometers an hour as well. Blasting round as well, this very tight, twisty and then open track as well. It's a combination which makes street track looks like a permanent race facility as well. And to think it's around a car park. Oh, doesn't it put Las Vegas to shame? The 1981 circuit that was literally around the car park of Caesar's Palace. Here at the moment, it looks absolutely fantastic. Pirelli have brought their Michelin tyre compound, the C2 hard, C3 medium and C4 soft compound tyre, and they might need it. Track temperature at 51 degrees, air temperature is at 33 degrees as well. The situation is high, the anticipation is high as well. And bang on cue is Tom Dillon just getting ready in the commentary box as well, just setting everything up there as well. 43% humidity, 11.5 kilometre hour is the wind speed as well, as we're getting all set for the 3rd practice session here in Miami. The Hard Rock Stadium, I think for the first time, the balcony being used as a main grandstand, not the grandstands within as well. And if I press what's behind door number 1, and you can see it's Tom Dillon getting ready and sat down. Hello Tom, how are you doing? You've just come from watching Spa. How is it down there? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you at the moment. Not my fault. I think it's the connection of where it is. Oh no, I literally just cannot hear you. It's like the mics. You're on the wrong mic, I believe. So I'll let you change that one as well as. Tell you what, Jensen Button's having problems with his microphone as well. I just had to adjust it as well as he's run up to the commentary box as well. Coming through then, let's take a look at the driver tracker. We've got it working now, free practice 3, the official one. So that'll go around the Hard Rock Stadium as well, where it used to be the Dolphin Stadium, didn't it, before they all changed over. I want to try again. Hello, can you hear me? Oh, I can only hear you out of one image, so it could be my fault with the output on Discord. So while I check that, we'll go through the standings and take a look at the battle computer, which is just popping up now as well. So there's the full runners as well for this 3rd practice session. If we have an issue throughout the broadcast, by the way, this is the screen that you will be able to look at, like now as they come down ready as well. And right now I can really do with Ted Kravitz helping me out as well. But trying to have it in as, hopefully, try again.
Hello, can you hear me now eventually?
Try once more and then yes, I can.
Awesome.
Yes.
So yes, Spa, I've got 2 minutes left on it, so I'm very looking forward to seeing how that finishes. There seems to be a bit of a dramatic battle going on for the GTE lead. But, of course, F1 starting in a minute's time as well, so looking forward to that. Also, it'll be interesting to see if Mercedes can carry on their pace. After yesterday, though I think it was a slight fluke on the runs that they were doing. But right now, looking like it's going to be some good fun. That's for certain.
Absolutely. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun this 3rd practice session as well, as the cars are about to head out onto the track then. Fingers crossed everything is going to work. We'll have the team radio in operation as well, and an actual working driver track, unlike an IndyCar a few days ago when it didn't work out all that well. We're getting ready. Green light then is on at the end of the pit lane, and the final hour of practice is underway here for the Miami Grand Prix. What have you thought of the track at the moment then, Tom, as well? First time we've raced here, but already Turn 1 looks very grippy indeed. It looks like we've already been racing here for a number of years, the amount of grip that this track has absorbed, and all the rubber lines as well. It's quite unusual for a new surface.
I'm not a big fan of the track so far, actually. I think it lacks a little bit of personality, and I think it's just a little bit rubbish, really. I'm not a fan of that tight technical section. I think if you're going to do technical sections in Formula 1, as you need to do it better than that. That's for certain. Way too tight, and just it's going to cause so many issues in the race. And I'm not a fan of the corner that we're looking at now on the TV feed,
Turn
which
7.
is essentially
Yeah,
turn 7 is essentially just who won but painted blue, and I'm not a fan of nicking corners from other tracks. So I'm not a fan of the track so far, and to be honest with you, already I'm not particularly itching to come back here.
I'm not. I don't blame you one bit. Hang on, we've just got the driver tracker glitching on us, which isn't great news because it is working, and I know it's working. So we've just got to get the actual screen working, as you can see, because Max Verstappen is out there. He is circulating, as are several of the cars, as you can see, on the battle computer. Which is what we're calling the screen, by the way. So if there's a problem, then we can look at it. Track temperature, you can see, is up at 49 degrees. It's already dropped 2 from where it was at the start of the session. Let's press this. We can get Tom back on the screen as well. I thought you would have liked this circuit, to be fair, Tom. I thought this is right up your street, this type of track. It's very Formula E, and it's very ERC, actually. It's got loads of feelings with it.
It's the kind of track I think that it seems to be too similar to Saudi Arabia for my liking. I quite like Saudi Arabia as a circuit. It's good fun, but I'm not a fan of us going to multiple circuits that are practically the same as Saudi Arabia. And, it's interesting to see the race around the stadium, but it just feels a little bit too gimmicky for my liking.
Yeah.
So it comes through to start to complete sector 1 of his first flying lap of the afternoon.
Easy.
Obviously, but it's the first one on the circuit, but medium tyres for him.
Yeah, and he's out there as well after not getting a lot of running in practice 2 with the rear brake fire for poor Max Verstappen. Desperately wants a better session today. The gearbox was replaced after practice 1 due to crawling in. Practice 2, the brake fire was triggered as well and caused multiple yellow flags and nearly wiped out Lance Stroll as well. Hopefully this is going to be the session where he has a smooth run as well and there's no issues as they head down the back straightaway towards the braking zone for turn 17. This bit of the track, I do actually love this bit as well, down in the long back straightaway with the lakeside. It reminds me a lot of Montreal, like we're running on the other side of the Olympic Lake. It's just got a nice feeling to it, that. But some of it does remind me of Sochi, the first sector especially, as you're talking about. That's the criticism I've got with it.
And to be fair, I don't dislike Sochi as a circuit. It's very fun to drive on the sim. And turn 1 as well here is quite interesting. I quite like that chicane. But I think really my issue with this circuit is the fact that it just screams a little bit gimmicky in how they've run this event.
The event,
an opening ceremony on Thursday.
David Croft, we speak no more.
Exactly, and it just seems to me like a little bit of a gimmick event, and I'm not a fan of that in F1. And I appreciate tracks like Spa only became historic because they were new once, but I don't see circuits like this or Saudi Arabia going down in history as historic racetracks. It just seems like it's a bit of a cash grab. And also having 3 races in America, I think is just
a bit much.
A little bit, yeah, exactly. And,
I've said that as well. I don't think we need Las Vegas. I think that looks like an absolutely boring track when it's only there for a cash grab. And I don't like how, if that's where Formula 1's going, then it's going the route of NASCAR, where they have too many races and not all of them are exciting as well. And that's not what we wanted to see. We don't want to dilute Formula 1. It is the pinnacle, and it should remain the pinnacle with some great circuits. You've made your mind up at the moment, but I'm trying to remain a little bit optimistic as well. I'm liking the look of the circuit in terms of it seems quite physical. I don't like this first sector and how wide it is and how flowing it is, because that doesn't really promote overtaking. Sector 2, I like the look of it with the DRS straights as well, and the very tight chicanes. That's got like a kart feeling for me, but we've got to see a race before making up proper minds, because if it turns into a Sochi, where it's fun to drive, but it's a boring race to commentate on, then I think we're all in trouble, because this race is long-term on the calendar, and Formula 1, I think, only really worked in America for 2 reasons. 1, they had a purpose-built Formula 1 circuit in COTA, and 2, Drive to Survive. We've tried street circuits before in America, and that never, ever worked. Detroit, Phoenix, Dallas as well, they don't work, and it's too much a disruption for these lot, and I don't think it's going to work permanently either. I think Las Vegas will be 2-3 years max before it disappears. Here,
Las Vegas
yeah.
just screams cash grab to me.
Yeah.
It's just so unnecessary. You don't need to see a Formula One race at Las Vegas. And I appreciate the drivers will probably love it, particularly on the Sunday night after a victory. But
Saturday,
I don't
Saturday night.
has a place.
Saturday night race.
Oh, Saturday night. Of course, because they're doing it for the Europeans, aren't they, as well?
So it's a Sunday morning for us here, but Saturday night for them. Over in stateside as well, becomes the 85th Grand Prix to be run on a Saturday before all the purists come out and say, oh, Grand Prix racing, that should be on a Sunday. Go back and take a look at when the first ever Formula One race was held. Saturday the 13th of May 1950. And the British Grand Prix was held on the Saturday until, I think, 1987, something like that, when it moved to a Sunday. So it's traditionally, British Grand Prix is a Saturday, which I was actually happy for if they changed it, but still, I think it's nice. We could do with some Grand Prix moved around a bit so that people get more free weekends. I think Friday, Saturday is a good thing. I mean, we have Saturday races for Formula E, and that works perfectly as well when it's not double headers.
And on the note of Grand Prix, and this is a little bit unrelated. I say a little bit unrelated. It's totally unrelated to what we're talking about. But I went on a little bit of a rabbit hole the other day when it came to Grand Prix racing, because it's Pau this weekend.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Pau Grand Prix. And I actually found out Pau is one of the only events. Macau doesn't have this, and the Grand Prix in New Zealand as well don't have this. But Pau has retained its Grand Prix status. So technically speaking, if you win Pau, it is almost equivalent to winning a Formula One Grand Prix because it has Grand Prix status.
They've kept their Grand Prix wow. So is that the only Grand Prix not run to Formula One regulation that's an official Grand Prix?
I don't know, but it did lead in a rabbit hole to try and find out what the FIA actually defines as a Grand Prix, and I couldn't find it anywhere. There's no Wikipedia articles on it. They don't have any documents on their website or anything like that, and it led me to believe. It led me to think, because it's like, I thought if you made Grand Prix status a big thing, it would be really interesting. Like say, because of course Grand Prix racing was never exclusively Formula One. IndyCar and Le Mans were all Grand Prix back in the 50s, and I think it would be really interesting to give events like Pau, Macau, Le Mans, and maybe every FIA World Championship Grand Prix status to reflect that F1 isn't just the only top-level motorsport.
I agree, because how many times do we get fed up of saying the Formula 2 Championship is a World Championship and it's not a Grand Prix, it's a round? Moto 2, MotoGP, Moto 2 and Moto 3 have Grand Prix status, so should F2 and F3.
I don't think F2 and F3 should, but I think every top class. So, for example, WEC would have Grand Prix status, because it's, and then perhaps IndyCar. I know it's technically not an FIA event, but I feel like there could be some dealings there, and all the big events like Le Mans, Pau, Macau, because I just feel like it would add a little bit of, it would appreciate that Formula One isn't the only category of racing around.
That's a great rabbit hole.
You could recognise sports cars and things like that. That's
a great rabbit hole, and I suppose IndyCar does have Grand Prix of Alabama, Grand Prix of Long Beach, Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Indianapolis Grand Prix, if that's still going now. It's the GMR Grand Prix now, isn't it? But yeah, they have Grand Prix. I've never actually looked in. Is it just the title, or is it an actual Grand Prix? So it's a
little bit like how cricket has first class status, because you can play a game of cricket in England and go and play in the winter in Australia, and your stats carry over. It's very interesting to see that, because then you could also have continuity in stats. If you go and start a Formula One Grand Prix and then you go and do Le Mans, then it gets added to your Grand Prix status, and you can and your statistics, and it would be very interesting because you could kind of see drivers branching out, and is there the same sort of event.
Suppose Fernando Alonso, 2-time Formula One world champion, 1-time world endurance champion, but officially he's a 3-time world champion overall. So that would be interesting to see if it would be that category. As Verstappen, just to tail end for that second, comes across the line, goes faster again, 1:31.355. So time's not there where we saw yesterday, but they are starting to come down as more grip gets laid down. We've got a yellow flag, out on the circuit in Sector 18, and that is down at the braking zone for turn 17. So after the long back straightaway in the third sector, I'm trying to see who's down there. I think it's Yuki Tsunoda who's going very slow on the run. And it's Kevin Magnussen. So it's Kevin Magnussen off track and continued down at turn 17. Anyway, back to your point. Yeah, is Fernando Alonso a 3-time champion then? Or is he a 2-time F1 champion? It's confusing, that, isn't it?
Because I think that's kind of already a thing with World Championship status, because you have the Formula E World Champion is a World Champion. And I think that's the kind of thing that you could do. And then you could have it as Grand Prix as well. So, I suppose if Antonio Felix Costa, for example, won a Formula One World Championship, he could class himself as a 3-time FIA World Champion.
That's it, yeah.
In the same way, you could class yourself as a 4-time Grand Prix winner if you won 3 F1 races and then a race in the WEC. Whether you'd have every single WEC race as a Grand Prix or just the big ones like Le Mans, and then go over to IMSA and have Daytona and Sebring. So you have the Triple Crown. But I think it would be perfect because these are top class racing series.
I agree.
It would recognise that it's not just. It's not just Formula One that's of course, it's the pinnacle of motorsport, but there's more top class racing series, as Chad's pointing out that Schumacher went third. He's actually gone down to 7th now as everyone else's lap times fly in, unless my live time screen.
No worries. And there's the spin for Kevin Magnussen down turn 17 as well, just looping it back around. Abby Play Games YouTube as well says, what a spectacular lap by Mick Schumacher. Spectacular. Haas is having a wonderful time. Absolutely. And SHD did point out as well that Schumacher went third on soft tyres. Everyone else on hards and mediums so far. He's going to drop off. Both Alpines coming out now with softs, he says as well. And also, it's crazy. If it's a crazy and chaotic race, I think Perez will win, or maybe Hamilton out of nowhere and get it. You said that in the Grid Network show, actually, SAC, when in the pre-show just before I came on this YouTube channel, because I was on the Grid Network, and you pointed that out. Yeah, I think it could be that Hamilton could clinch it if it rains, but I've got more of a thing that maybe we're going to see Russell topping a race this weekend. And I think the front row of the grid is going to be Leclerc, Russell, second row Verstappen, Sainz, then Perez, Hamilton. I think if that's the order, I'm putting a bet on the lottery tonight as well, because that would be quite fun.
I'll have to WEC. I think I'm just about fed up of racing this weekend. I would quite like a fully dry race. There are 2 red flags there specifically for the rain. And actually yellow flags in sector 1, and I'm starting to fear. Yeah, we've gone green again. I was trying to figure out who that was. I want to say that.
Well, it's a permanent yellow. Sector 15 now. Oh, and that's turn 14. Red flag. I don't know who.
And I think it's. I want to say.
It's Ocon.
Ocon.
Esteban Ocon has hit the wall backwards, exactly the same as Carlos Sainz yesterday down at the Red Bull complex, and that is a big repair job ahead of qualifying, and that Otmar Safnauer doesn't know what to think of that. Red flags are out then, another crash at the same part of the track. Looking on the onboard as well, he's done the front left suspension, rear left suspension as well. Let's hear from the radio.
You all right there, mate? Yeah, all okay.
Yeah, he's all okay, but that looks carbon copy to what we saw yesterday with Carlos Sainz. Same part of the track and everything.
Yep, it's that technical section that everyone is saying is a little bit too tight, and I agree. As I said, I like technical sections on racetracks, but I think a chicane that tight, it doesn't offer much to the track. It's just an awkward chicane that no one really likes, and Ocon being one that falls foul to it once again. Of course, he's slightly uphill, so the car will be getting ever so slightly light. That's a big repair job for qualifying, which starts very, 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 very soon. Actually, qualifying starts at 9 o'clock UK, so they've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 3 hours to get that car repaired, and the entire front left suspension has sheared off, and I think there's probably a bit of damage on the rear as well, and I don't think they'll have their race gearbox in at this stage.
No, I don't think they would do. They would. Some teams would, but that's a big one. Has it done the gearbox? That's the question. Seeing it already through, let's take a replay of it. Now, is he going to lock the rears exactly the same as Sainz did? Identical. Bigger, actually. He actually took some air.
Yeah. And, we've got a visor cam
wow.
shot of it. You can't see it on the stream, of course. We're audio only, but, he's just gone. It's just before the chicane, actually. It's that slightly uphill section. He's clipped a little bit of curb, I think, and the car's just let go on him on the throttle application. And, that's so easy to do. You can always feel that happening. And Abby Plays on YouTube says, could they get that out before the end of FP3? Absolutely not.
No.
That car would take it would probably take towards the end of FP3 before they even get it back. And
Pablo
so
Montoya.
No chance.
Well, Pablo Montoya is in the skybox. Let's listen up.
When we race, you put a wheel off and you're in the dirt. And you probably hit something most of the time. So I think this is really cool. I'm enjoying it. I did the laps yesterday. The same thing with the long left. I think it's turn 6. Oh my God. It's so easy to get it wrong.
But you're right, and I remember people used to do the season on all these circuits that had a lot of runoff. Then they get to Suzuka and put it in the wall straight away.
Straight
or in the
away.
gravel, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's just
brain
it's
reset,
the
mind?
it's the old school circuit where you are punished for any mistake, and I think we had a period of time where circuits were so safe that it got to the point where you would outbrake yourself first lap and then work back, where instead of building up to it, so it was the wrong way round. Whereas now a lot of the new circuits are actually tough. Yeah.
Interesting. So I thought there was going to be more of an interview aspect there, but Pablo Montoya just seems to have drifted into the Sky commentary box like Mario Andretti did yesterday. But Pablo Montoya, of course, Miami Grand Prix ambassador, but we should change that to 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner as well. And was it 4-time Grand Prix winner?
And this is what I'm talking about. If we had for Grand Prix status become a thing with the FIA, you could point out that he's won 7 Grand Prix plus all the WEC races. Although it's
of
very
course,
class.
yeah.
I didn't notice he wasn't in WEC today, and obviously at the Grand Prix instead. SHT says Alpine need time to fix it. Don't know if it's severe. If you are audio only and don't have the pictures alongside you, we'll do our best to describe the incident for you. He's basically hit the wall quite hard. He sheared off the front left tyre, most of the front left suspension as well. I imagine there's damage on the rear too, which would suggest he might also be picking up engine issues.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But the team will assess that, obviously. It might bode unfairly for tomorrow, or unfavourably for them tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see. However, it's not just half of his front wing gone. His entire front wing's gone. He's got no front left suspension, and his rear left isn't in the best of states either. So I don't think they'll be... In fact, I think they'll be hard-pressed to get that fixed by qualifying, though they'll probably do it.
Well, Carlos Sainz had a similar accident yesterday in practice too. He has a new control electronics box as well, so the CE has been changed. It's the only change they've done at the Ferrari, so they've avoided a gearbox penalty as well. I don't think Esteban Ocon is going to avoid that because he hit it in such an angle that the car actually took off. Valtteri Bottas, who crashed in the first practice session, he's had a new turbo and a new MGU-H, that's the heat unit as well, motor generated unit heat, after he shunted the wall in FP1. So Bottas, no penalties as I see at the moment, because I think they've completed the races they need to, and it's inside that 3 they can use for free during the season. You only get a penalty if it's a gearbox change within 5 races, and this is the 5th race now, so technically it counts. Abby says, at Joshua Birch, I definitely see a difference between Russell's and Hamilton's car. It's odd that Russell is setting faster lap times. Yeah, Russell's 4th, 132.335. Hamilton 6th, 132.851. So there's a good 3 or 4 tenths between them as well at the moment. I remember how good Montoya was when he was with Williams. Absolutely. I mean, I still remember Montoya and that dive bomb he did on Schumacher at Brazil in 2001, right up the inside as well. And that was a move and a half, although 3-year-old Joshua was actually thinking, where was Murray Walker during that race, and why was it James Allen? But Murray had that race off, of course, down that one. And Montoya, I think I remember Montoya as well more for that fantastic move he did actually on Kimi Raikkonen back when he was at Williams in 2003. Raikkonen was still at McLaren. Montoya was at Williams at the Hockenheim, right round the outside in the stadium sector. Brilliant, breathtaking manoeuvres as well. I think we saw it actually as a attack mode lap or lap, whatever, the lap moments, attack zones we saw when we were at Hockenheim a couple of years ago. A long time ago now, 2019. Wow.
On the note of the difference between Russell and Hamilton's cars, we're still under red flag here, so we can afford to go off on a tangent, as if we haven't been all session anyway. But no, I don't buy that at all. They say Hamilton has been taking experiments with setup, but if you play with fire, you get burnt. If you change your setup, then it's your own problem if you're not fast enough. He's a 7-time world champion. And, the sensors that they've added to his car for the feedback, they're not going to be that big. They'll be negligible in terms of performance. I think people just need to accept that maybe these cars don't suit Hamilton's performance, and plus Hamilton's driving style even. And plus Russell has spent the last 3 years of his Formula 1 career driving around problems in a very unfavourable Williams. So now he gets into Mercedes. It's understandable why he's got a bit of a knack for driving around a poor car. I don't think that I just think Hamilton's driving poorly this year, and I don't think there's anything more to it.
I completely agree. I think we saw his moaning in Australia was one of the things that really put me. And actually, I said in the commentary, my distaste for Lewis asking to be let through on George Russell, because he didn't deserve it. He may be a 7-time champion, but there and then, Russell had won the better race in Australia, and Lewis was asking to be let through, and then replied by saying, when they denied, you're putting me in a really difficult position. Lewis, when things don't go his way, acts like a child, and that's what I don't like. And I said it a couple of days ago in the preview show as well. There's two sides to Lewis Hamilton. There's the loving, caring, eco-warrior side, and then there's the side when he's not winning races in Formula 1 that he is a grumpy, childish, immature person. And we saw it in McLaren, actually, and I'm seeing... That's one thing, I don't know if you've seen it, Tom, but I'm seeing this year already a lot of similarities between 2012 McLaren and 2022 Mercedes. Lewis is starting to get a little bit annoyed with Mercedes. And, of course, yesterday, him and Toto had their first row when over this jewellery situation, of course, where Toto said... I completely agree with the FIA. They're doing this for safety, about in case if there's a crash or anything. It's to protect the drivers, not having any jewelry on the car. And Lewis Hamilton, in protest, turned up wearing rings on every finger, 3 watches and 4 necklaces as well, and 2 earrings and a nose ring. I mean, there's childish, and then there's making out that the FIA out to get him. Well, in this case, they're not. They're doing it for safety because they've told other drivers on it.
And the watches all displayed different times, which particularly annoyed me. Yes.
Yes, I know what you mean.
One said quarter past and one said it was on the hour, which really annoyed me. But honestly, it's stupid. It's a grown man crying over being asked to take his jewellery out.
Yeah.
I mean, year 7 PE, we were all annoyed that we had to take our watches off, whatever.
Yeah.
It's... The new race director has come in and you're asking him to enforce the rules. He's come in, he's decided, right, I want to enforce the rules then, and now you're complaining. So, pick a side. Do you want them to enforce the rules, don't you? If it's for your safety. And I appreciate they say that he's wearing a platinum nose ring, and by the time that, the platinum gets to its melting point to cause damage to tissue, then he'll be long gone anyway. But you can't just say specific types of jewellery. You have to ban it all.
It's all on one, yeah.
I just think it's pathetic from someone like Lewis Hamilton, who is supposed to be this big ambassador to the sport, who's supposed to be all for safety, is going to go and say that he's going to cry that someone's suppressing his individualism or whatever he said in the media in the week because
exactly that, yeah.
He can't take off his nose ring. I
mean, it's realistically, this rule hasn't just come up. This rule has been in place since around about 2005, I think it was. So it hasn't just vanished out of nowhere. This has been a very long time now. So it's not a surprise that it's now being enforced. Lewis complained so much after Abu Dhabi, as everybody did as well with what happened. And now that, as you say, Tom, they're enforcing the rules, and it's like Lewis is now saying, oh, no, not that rule. Not that. No. That rule doesn't apply to me because of this, that, and that.
And it's just simple. There's no greater conspiracy, as some people are trying to say, that they're
Yeah.
trying to target Lewis Hamilton. It's just you've simply got a new race director who wants to be harsher on the rules. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's,
different
yeah.
referees have different opinions on things. You
And
know,
it's also
kids
with the
football
fireproof.
being an
Yeah,
example.
it's the fireproof underwear as well. I mean, Sebastian Vettel protested yesterday during the end of practice 1 by wearing his normal underwear on the outside of his race suit, because apparently you can wear the underwear on the outside but not on the inside. Reason for that is, on the outside it's protected by the fire resistant layer, and on the inside it's not. And there's a metal strip in the Puma pants he was wearing. So it's just ridiculous. The drivers are their worst enemies sometimes as well, and this is why they shouldn't be allowed to govern. The racing drivers are basically children. They need to be told exactly what to do, and if they don't,
That's
they'll
part
do
of
it.
what makes the sport so fit, is the fact that they throw their toys out of the pram at every moment. And when you're driving a car, you do get hard-headed. And session's going to resume at 27 past. Speaking of children, we have just seen a shot of the first influencer pretending to be interested in Formula 1, taking pictures with the track.
Oh dear,
And,
more again.
When in Miami.
I suppose so. They're all lined up, though, I'm delighted to say, at the end of the pit lane, so we are going to go green shortly, and which is great news. But I don't know. Just quickly from Abby says as well, I'm not a Mercedes fan, but I think what the FIA did on lap 52 of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was unacceptable. I've said that as well. It was a tricky situation that was implied in a different way, and it was wrong. It was wrong. Michael, and Michael was rightly fired for that, and now that's done. It wasn't a great conspiracy by the FIA.
No,
It was one man.
not.
Yeah, it was one man
We've
who made a
spoken about
mistake.
this before, and we
Yeah,
both agreed. He's under pressure. It's the biggest moment of his career, essentially, and he's just made a mistake under pressure. It's so simple to do. He's got a 900-page rule book to follow.
Yeah,
you know, and he's got 2 minutes to make a decision.
Yeah, I would have failed horribly. No one would have done better at that either.
No.
So that's the upsetting part as well. As the cars are now back out onto the circuit. Blame Michael Masi first for that. Yeah, it was Michael Masi. SHG agreeing with us there again. Haas is having a good day. Go on.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Josh, but the fault probably lies with Liberty Media and their insistence on trying to, pressure the FIA into giving them a good show.
Yes.
That's probably where the fault lies. But at the end of the day, it was borderline 6 months ago. Now it's over. I wish people would just move on.
And unfortunately, they never will. The only way they would move on if Lewis won the championship, and I don't think he's going to win another, to be fair. I don't. I think Lewis is going to retire, maybe not this year, but next year. But I don't think he's going to win another, because as soon as you are left behind by the field, it's very hard to get back up there. And Lewis, yes, he's a fantastic driver, but he was rubbish in 2009 with what happened in the first half of the season when that McLaren was not working right. He was rubbish. As soon as they changed it and got a new car, he was competitive again. And I think, everybody just say, the car does make the driver. They work together. I think the only person I've ever seen in Formula 1 who could drive a really bad car was that of Schumacher. We'll have to hold on for a sec, because we're going to have an audio up that with Kevin Magnussen. So turn up your volume and enjoy. Kevin Magnussen coming across the line now then to complete a lap, and it's a 1:32.495 on the board as well. Always like listening to the cars when I get a chance because I barely get to hear them over the headset. To continue on with our point, we're talking about Lewis Hamilton. We'll throw it back to you, Tom, if you've got your response.
And yes, well, I think people just have to accept that, the car it's probably 50-50 between car and driver. A great driver can make a mediocre car great, and a mediocre car or a bad car can make a great driver bad. And Lewis Hamilton's got a bad car, and he has proven that he's pretty incapable sometimes of driving around problems. And that's all that's happened. There's no greater conspiracy. They aren't giving him a different car, a different setup. Well, they are giving him a different setup in fairness, but as I said, the driver's got a big say in the setup. If he doesn't like the setup, it's up to him to ask for a change. So you can't use that as a get-out clause. Although I've done that in sim racing plenty of times, but there's a difference. Every time we do poorly in a sim race, it's always the setup. But anyway, Hamilton just needs to crack on with it, and I think the issue is he sometimes acts a little bit as if he's above the sport when he really isn't. Yeah. And what I mean with that is exactly this: it's like threatening not to race if the FIA don't let him wear his jewelry. It's like, okay, then goodbye. The sport doesn't need you.
Yeah. He's not above Formula One at all, and I think a great example of this was the fact that we've seen a race without Lewis Hamilton. Which was in Shakir 2020. And that was a fantastic race as well when Lewis got COVID. So it's not exactly like we're going to be missing Lewis Hamilton if he does leave. The presence will be missed, but the back chat, maybe not. And there's plenty of drivers I can say that with as well. I don't like Lance Stroll's attitude. I don't like as well Latifi's attitude. I don't like seeing as well how Vettel is treated badly by many people in the paddock. I don't like that as well, because Vettel he did start off as a bit of a cheeky chappy in his Red Bull days, but I've always found him a very warm and caring and loving person, and I think finally a lot of people are starting to understand that about Seb as well. But you have different views of different drivers as well. I think the one thing is that everybody has the same opinion on Lewis Hamilton. They love his driving ability, but they can't stand the hypocrisy he has. I think that's the big thing as well.
Yes, and it's just little things he does.
Oh, he's on board now.
Oh, there we go. On board with Lewis Hamilton, and Mercedes sporting that new fancy highlights and trims on the car to celebrate Miami, and all colourful and fancy. Lewis Hamilton really unleashing his inner Valentino Rossi. In fact, on the live feed, we've got two Mercedes on board with. No, in fact, we're on board with Gasly.
Gasly, yeah.
The same colour.
Same colour. I even thought for a second was that Russell.
Yes. But no, it's Pierre Gasly, who really deserves another chance at Red Bull at some stage. He's been driving superbly the last couple of years. He's on a run on the hard tyres, and he's coming through sector 2 right now towards the back end, I believe. And he won't be going faster this lap, of course. Bottas set a purple previous sector, actually, looking at it. He will not be improving, though, I don't think.
No, he's down in the two sectors, isn't he? Where is Bottas? Just coming through.
Oh, no, actually, on the live feed, it's popped up.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to read, but yes, Bottas now heading through sector 2. He's about to come up to the timing line. Actually, I can see he's just there, and he goes improvement, but not purple. 10th down on Verstappen. The order is, of course, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz. Schumacher has set a pretty good lap to go fourth. That you can't read much into it in practice.
Yeah,
you never can. And I mean, that's proven by the fact that George Russell just topped a session, and now he's down in 6th. So let's not read a lot into it. And of course, Verstappen on the medium tyres on his fastest lap. So
great. Yeah, look at that from Bottas.
Can't read anything.
Yeah, Valtteri
He
goes
third.
Yeah.
So very good lap from Bottas, and he got traffic in the end. So not their true pace.
That's interesting.
Maybe he could get into Q3 today.
I hope so, because Bottas seems to have got a second lease of life after moving away from Mercedes and going to Alfa Romeo. I think what I'm finding is that drivers who leave the Mercedes team always say a bit how toxic it feels. Nico Rosberg left the end of 16 after winning the championship because he just couldn't take the toxic atmosphere anymore, which is, I think,
from the outside. Very, very toxic. And I think a lot of it's down to Toto Wolff, and at least the impression I get in his perceived management style. He, how he threw his toys out the pram at the end of last year, and making demands to the race
2
director.
seconds.
And I know there was a bit from Red Bull, but when Red Bull, for example, they asked for the lap cars, of course. It was phrased as, Michael, can we ask why you're not getting these lap cars out of the way? It was a suggestion. It was just a question. Whereas Toto was on the radio basically on his knees begging Michael Massey for no safety car. It was the mannerisms and just how he comes over the radio to Lewis. And I think they've got a big problem in that Lewis seems to be almost bigger than the team, and they don't seem to be able to take losing too greatly.
They don't, and I think it's killing them this season as well. The fact that they've got it wrong, so wrong as well, with their car. And I think the biggest error they've got is this double side pod. The double no side pods as well. That how has anybody thought that's a good idea? I don't know what Mercedes were on. Whatever kind of recreational drugs they were on. I don't know what, but Formula One cars need cooling. They've removed the cooling, and they're slower. The mind boggles.
Never mind all the porpoising business as well that they can't seem to get a handle on. But regardless, George Russell has finished, what was the stat? Top 5 every single race this season.
Yeah.
Any driver to do so. So clearly the car isn't that bad. It's just that Lewis Hamilton, for whatever reason, is very fast in the car. And,
4th in Bahrain for Russell, 5th in Saudi Arabia, 3rd in Australia, and 4th in Italy. As well. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, was podium in Bahrain, then 10th in Saudi Arabia, 4th in Australia, and 13th in Emilia-Romagna in Italy, and failed to get through a single car. In fact, if you look at it, Hamilton actually lost positions at the sprint race and the feature race in Italy. He did not make any improvements. For the first time, I think, in his F1 career, he went completely backwards. And then, of course, he got lapped by Verstappen, which was an interesting sight.
At the end in Imola, and not ideal for him whatsoever. And Abby plays in the chat. I encourage you not to read too much into the timing standings right now. It really doesn't matter. If I was to jump in an F1 car tomorrow and go and decide to set some qualifying laps in a practice session, I'd probably be near the front. I mean, I'm being very hyperbolic, but I think you get the point. It's do not read a lot into it with the with all of the different run plans and things. It's if any of the teams on the grid decided to go for an all-out qualifying run, they would go first, or at least top 5. So it's not really a measure of driver's skill at this stage.
I think we've got a red flag. Not entirely sure, but my timing screen on the iPad just displayed red flag signals, and nothing.
I don't see any on my feed, and no one stopped on the live driver tracker either.
It's one of those phantom reds that keep appearing every now and then as Verstappen locked up at turn 1. That I hate when they happen as well, the phantom red flags, because it spoils everything. The entire system up in the commentary box, because I've got timing screens all over, literally. It flashes red, and it blinds you for a second as well. There's traffic for Perez, and I think that is Vettel. He was on the back straight away there as well. So that's that tight, twisty section at the top of the hill that nobody likes at Sector 2.
And he did one of the old Mexican hand gestures as well as Fernando Alonso improves. 132.177 up to 5th. So, in fact, Magnussen as well, up to 6th. I think we missed that with Schumacher. Watching Charles Leclerc on his next run on the soft tyres, this should be an improvement on Verstappen. You'd think he's currently 2 tenths of a second off, a little bit over, 2.2 tenths, really. And this should be an improvement on the soft tyres. We'll have a wait and see.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned Fernando Alonso there as well, and of course he could break a record this weekend. A top 10 finish for Fernando would see him equal Kimi Raikkonen as the driver to have scored in the 3rd most F1 races. Should he score 18 points this weekend, he'd become the 3rd driver to have reached over 2,000 points, joining Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Norris hit the wall at the exit of 16.
He didn't hit the wall, but the basketball helmet really bouncing around the track and well, he just about avoided the wall, but it took way too much curb, and Russell slides through one of the penultimate corners of this circuit. I believe he's going down to the straight. You have to forgive me. I couldn't find a good version of this track for Assetto Corsa in preparation for this weekend, so I don't know the circuit at all.
Nick Homewood had one on, I think, R Factor and did a lap for us. So Nick managed to get us a lap. You should ask him for the R Factor lap.
I'll have to find the link, yeah. But I always like when we have a new circuit to do a couple of laps just to try and get my head around it. But this one is one where I couldn't find a version. I did find a version, and then I was driving it, and it was a completely different track. So I don't really know what layout that guy's got. But
this is the first race, actually, since we've started doing YouTube that I've not done any laps around, because I don't have R Factor 2 running on the computer. So Nick did the lap attack for me, and I have not been able to run around a couple of laps, like you say. And it has affected me, actually, because I'm having to really study every single car that goes through every single part of the track, because I don't know how quick to go through certain corners. I don't know how much camber. So it's a learning curve, and I envy the guys out there who have been able to walk the track over the past couple of days. I would have loved that, although 5 kilometres in these shoes, not great. Black and white flag for car 10 Gasly crossing the line at pit exit. Now, that's in a practice session. He's been given a black and white flag. Usually,
there was one for Stroll as well, wasn't there?
Yes, the what? When was that? Was that earlier on in the session?
Practice 1. He got
practice
a
one.
black and white flag for crossing the pit lane exit entry, I think.
He did. You're right. Bang on, he did. And I don't know why I didn't pick up that before. So that's very interesting situation at the moment. Yuki, so far, still looking very anonymous in qualifying, says SHT as well. Looks to be that way as well. We are going to try and get through to the chat as quickly as possible as well. As Abby's just said, black BBB flag, and white flag for GG Gasly as well. So, yeah.
Purple in 2 sectors for Charles Leclerc. He's on a soft tyre run qualifying simulation, you'd imagine, in practice 3, and he's just porpoising down the back straight here in Miami. Takes the final couple of corners now. He's looking pretty clean, heading through the penultimate little fast chicane down to the back, the pit straight, and he's going to cross the line, and he is going to improve to top the session. 1:30.9 for Charles Leclerc. So the fastest lap, I believe, we've seen all weekend so far. George Russell improves in the first sector as well. He's currently sat 8th.
We're twitching as well, coming into the marina section. No, this is the beach section as well. The beach south and the beach north is this part of the track. Forget karts.
Call it a marina section.
Well, turn 8 is called the marina section on the track map I've got, and then turn 11 and 12 is the beach south and the beach north, and then coming up through 13, 14, 15 and 16, that's the Red Bull complex due to all of the advertising on the side, and then it's down the Lakeside View, the straightaway, so Lakeside Straight, and then coming into the last 2 corners. I'm basically just trying to name the corners as we go as well, but the only 3 official turns are the beach south, the beach north, and the marina section. That's it. So if you've got any names you want to throw in anywhere. Where Bottas crashed in practice 1, we've called the hard shoulder. I thought that was quite funny.
Well, I'm a fan of them actually bringing in corner names, because I think it gives the track a bit of personality. Russell says the tyres are nowhere, and well, I think that's pretty evident. In fact, he's gone to 4th, so no, it's not pretty evident at all. He seems to be going pretty well. I wasn't too sure what tyres he set them on. Looking at the replay now, I can tell you he's on softs.
Yeah.
So that was a qualifying simulation run for Russell, and the rears were getting away from him a little bit. Of course, the tyres are a lot thinner this year. I forget the exact number there. Isn't it 21 inch tyres they've moved to? But they're also a lot actually thinner in characteristic, and it makes it very difficult to warm them up. There's not a lot of contacts on the road.
I thought it was 18, wasn't it?
18 it might be, actually, yes. And if you, and I know it's not an incredible measure, but if you drive these kind of tyres in a sim, the first thing you'll notice is how difficult they are to get up to temperature, and they fall away from you very, very quickly as well, particularly in R Factor 2 actually the sort of fantasy equivalent of this year's cars.
Yeah.
They are very, very difficult to manage those tyres, and the rear can slide away from you very, very easily. You have to take a couple of laps at about 80% pace just to make sure the tyres actually get there. How that translates into the real world, of course, I'm unfortunately never going to be privileged enough to know. But certainly in the sim, it's very, very noticeable. And well, some cars are clearly doing a better job at it than others. The kind of thing that you'd really need DAS for, but of course
that should have been a rule on these cars. That would have been. It's not really an advantage. It was just warming the tyres up, wasn't it? So, DAS should have been legal for the 2022 cars. That would have been exciting. And I think we need a solution to DRS as well. I think we need like a push-to-pass system like we have in IndyCar. Did we discuss that actually at Alabama on Sunday last week?
Don't think so, but I'd be happy to see Kerrs come back, to be honest.
Yeah, I would.
I think that would be a pretty good solution. I think DRS is quickly going to the point where we still need it, but it's a little bit too powerful now. And well, I'm just dreading next year's F1 game, because usually DRS in the F1 game is 10 times more powerful than it is in real life. And, well, in real life, it's 10 times more powerful than last year. So that's not going to be fun. And,
no,
I don't know how much commentary you do on the F1 games, Josh, but I have to say it can be quite frustrating watching races where DRS is particularly powerful.
PSGL, yeah, I do, yeah. It is quite annoying as well. We actually, last race we had was in Sao Paulo for the PCF4 on Thursday, and they were using DRS. They couldn't get past Sao Paulo. They could not get through. It was like 9 or 10 laps. It's stuck in the train and ducking and diving with each other. But usually at other tracks we go to, the DRS is just one. It's just an overtake too easy as well.
I commentated on PPR Esports Tier 4 on Thursday, and they had a race at Silverstone. It was some of the best racing I've ever seen, actually. It went right down to the wire. And that was a track where actually I thought the DRS was quite well balanced in the game, surprisingly.
Yeah, at Silverstone it is quite good, yeah.
Normally it's just either really, really overpowered or really underpowered. But at Silverstone it was quite nicely balanced.
I think I know on for PSGL in their next season when the F1 22 game comes out, we are racing in Miami at some point, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how they race. And I know Jeddah's on the list because it's one of the new ones as well, but they do 15 races. They skip out the boring ones, I think, as well. Like Sochi's not on the calendar. It was never on the calendar to begin with. But I always liked Sochi on an esport run. It always gave us some good racing.
Doesn't PGSL, as I apologise, I always forget the exact order of the letter. Don't they also try and loosely follow the F1 esports calendar?
Yeah. Because
they attract a lot of esports drivers, so they like to sort of keep it relative. Because in the F1 games, you find tracks that aren't on the esports calendar. I'm trying to think of examples. For example, Spain, I don't think is on the esports calendar this year. Those tracks tend to be less favoured by leagues because, well, there's not really any point to them.
Yeah.
There's 10 minutes to go in the session, by the way. It's your 10-minute warning with Verstappen purple in Sector 1. And we're waiting to see what happens in Sector 2, heading through the... in fact, no, this
Look at Checo.
Through the final corner.
Checo's looking fab across the line and goes top. 1:36.99. Checo really flying out there. 2 tenths quicker than Verstappen. And here is Max now. And he's 2 tenths up at Sector 2. So he's green personal best at the moment. As he hurts us
absolutely down. Regulation for Max to get the top of this particular session. You would think we'll need pretty decent Sector 3, but I think he'll have that pretty safely. And, well, looking now, he's very, very... Oh, he's
Lost
a little bit
time.
squirrely, actually,
Yeah.
heading through the last 2 corners. Heading the run to the line now, and he just about tops the session. 0.05 of a second ahead, and he wasn't very good Sector 3. Actually, in hindsight, for Verstappen, but Flying Dutchman flies to the top once again. I don't think anyone's ever called him that, but I have now.
I've called him the Flying Dutchman occasionally. I think that should be his name, the Flying Dutchman. That's a brilliant name as well. better than the Verstappenator, or whatever they were calling him as well.
Speaking of Flying Dutchman, I remember there was a guy that we commentated on in F1 leagues once, and he was really fast, and everyone called him the Flying Dutchman, and he was so fast we said he was the next Jarno Opmeer.
Oh, wow.
Very early in this game, it became evident that he was using cheat engine, so he wasn't the Flying Dutchman at all.
Oh, no.
And we tipped him as the next Jarno Opmeer, and there's probably clips of me saying how incredible he is at the game, and it turns out he was cheating.
Yeah,
so
I think I heard about this. I think I heard about this because didn't League
It was
Racing
one of the biggest
News,
scandals actually I've ever seen in league racing, and I was kind of just stepping back, like, I know that guy.
League Racing News came up and said it, didn't they? I remember that now. Yeah, they went on his files.
Now they're the biggest pests of the esports racing scene. They are League Racing News.
Yes.
I appreciate I'm burning bridges, but anyway.
Not a fan myself, as well. I remember they were on his computer on screen share, and they made him go through all the files, and then they found out the cheat engine, as you say. Yeah. No, there's no point. You go on.
It was kind of always accepted when I was first doing like R-Factor leagues and stuff, and I appreciate we're a bit off topic of F1, but
nothing's happening out there at the moment. Yeah, go on.
But yes, and I remember that it was always kind of the accepted thing that whilst you weren't doing it yourself, everyone kind of knew that there was going to be a few people on the grid that were cheating.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can really do against it. I think as it proved this year with the sort of cheating epidemic, that it was the first time that these things kind of really came out. And I think in esports, everyone just needs to accept that some people are cheating, and if you find them, great, but it's just kind of unfortunately one of those things that is always going to happen. And Albon has gone fourth, apparently. Ricciardo's gone faster, so actually Albon fifth. And maybe that's a little bit of pace being shown for the Williams.
Yeah, so it's Ricciardo fourth, Albon fifth, Norris sixth at the moment then on the runs. Red Bull 1-2 with Verstappen topping, Perez second, Leclerc third, Ricciardo, Albon, Norris, Bottas, Hamilton, Gasly and Russell completes the top 10. Sainz 11th, Alonso, Magnussen, Schumacher, Zhou, Vettel, Stroll, Tsunoda, Latifi and Ocon. Ocon's only on 3 laps as well, so there's a he crashed, didn't he? As well, yeah, earlier on in the session, so that's why Ocon's not doing any runs. This is Gasly coming to the line, and that exit also, if somebody gets it wrong, out of turn 18, could hit the wall.
Yeah, the car's bouncing everywhere like a kangaroo.
The car is bouncing everywhere like a kangaroo. I'm pretty sure someone said that on the moon once. I forget who. But I'm jumping around like a kangaroo, I think was the quote.
Yeah.
But, of course, on the point of cheating here, obviously if any of the drivers here were cheating in the practice session in real life, they've got scrutineering. They can see, you're underweight. A little bit of a note for the race. Make sure you're, Sebastian Vettel last year in Hungary was... well, at least not intentionally, but they were cheating basically with the fuel sample. As Alonso goes fourth, that's a very good lap for the Alpine actually. The
131.4,
sole Alpine here will have to have absorbed his teammates' run plans as well. So very, very promising for Alpine. They seem to have got incredible pace, but not incredible reliability. But of course, in sim racing, if you're cheating, no one can tell. Absolutely no one can tell. And the thing is, the cheats that this guy were using as well were so practically unnoticeable. It was something stupid like 1% extra grip, and you can't notice that on your own. And so it's one of those things that just has to be found out. Someone has a suspicion, and the next thing you know, they go through your files and find something.
1% makes all the difference as well. I think we found that out from several series, but that's insane. All that just for 1%. 1:31.678 for Tsunoda, who drops down to 7th because Stroll's gone 6th, and they're all starting to come up now, actually, in that middle sector. Vettel 4th, Sainz 17th, jumps to 5th, 1:31.258. Alonso 6th, then Stroll, Tsunoda as well. So they're all jumping around on the timing screens at the moment. Mattia Binotto watching on. A man whose job is very much under pressure this year, despite the fact that they're leading both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. But if they don't win, he will be fired, as I think everybody can agree to. Although Jean Todt was never fired, but that's because Schumacher practically... to be fair, Jean Todt, Rosborn and Schumacher and actually Mattia Binotto as well were sort of like the string quartet of Ferrari in those days. If they'd fired any of them, then it wouldn't have worked out And I don't like how Ferrari treated Schumacher in the end. They sacked him in many respects to get Raikkonen in. And then, yeah, Raikkonen won one title for them. And then where did it go? Absolutely nowhere. So, waste of time. Gone.
Raikkonen should have won about 4 different championships, but never did. Perez goes fastest.
Wow.
Disappointing middle sector, but fastest nonetheless. 3 tenths faster than his teammate. Verstappen is on a lap, I believe, or it might be an outlap. We'll have to double check. There's a replay come up on the TV feed of George Russell porpoising down the straight, and looks like he's going to have a mighty migraine later. But
how is this safe?
Well. Oh dear, that is. You can't see it on the stream. I appreciate that, but that is some almighty porpoising. That is horrendous.
How on earth is that? Ross Brawn must have missed something when he designed these cars as a base regulation, because these are killers. If that porpoising happens and then it breaks the rear suspension at high speed, that's going to be a massive accident, especially at this track as well, where barriers are lined across the side. What's this? Is this our? We've had 5 races, 2 on permanent circuits, and 3 road courses 3 street races this year already.
And the spine as well in the back. I mean, I obviously I've only ever raced rental cars, but even then, if you go onto the wrong bit of circuit, I've come back from races before where I've forgotten to wear rib protectors and padding and things, and I've gone over a curb and it's shook my back to the absolute core, and I've been struggling to walk for the next 3 days.
Wow.
I dread to think that times 200 mile an hour.
Yeah,
it would be horrendous.
Surprised no one's actually gone to the hospital yet and say, look, I've got really bad chronic pain because of these Formula 1 cars. Of course, no needle policy, the same as MotoGP. You're only allowed tablets, no injections or anything into the veins at all allowed. Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, same policy as MotoGP. No needles, paracetamol only in tablet form.
Not even. So, is it? What painkillers constitute that? Is it only paracetamol, or can you take ibuprofen? And if the pain's really bad, what if you need a surgery and you've got to have morphine?
That's
is
different.
That not allowed? You've got to manage the pain.
Yeah. That's different. If it's like you go to the doctors and say, yeah, I've got this, that, there's no injections allowed unless you get a dispensation from the stewards. And even then, it's technically racing under the influence. So it's only paracetamol on race weekends. If you do take injections, you have... Oh, Verstappen!
Verstappen into the wall, and
he's
he's not
missed
into the
it.
wall even. We apologise.
Yeah, he's just missed it.
He's at that chicane.
The Red
car
Bull
would have got right, and he's in a bit of a tricky position. I hope he can find reverse. He does find reverse in the end. But yes, at that Red Bull chicane, as we're calling it, uphill, he's just clipped a bit of curb.
Careful.
The rear end's got a little bit loose on him, and very treacherous. But eventually Verstappen gets back going, and hopefully that doesn't happen for him too often. And well, no one saw Max. It's okay, and he can move on. But to answer GKP Tech in chat, no, this isn't the sprint weekend, as evidenced by the fact qualifying's in a couple of hours' time, and we haven't had a green flag yet, but a FP3 session. We've had an FP3 session. So looking at what happened to Max, he just went into the corner and then bounced over the curb, basically. And well, only one way. You're going there.
Into quote Murray Walker. Hello, girls. Watching on down there. The fans are really out there. There's Yuri Vips, of course, desperate for a seat in Formula 1. Wants the seat of Yuki Tsunoda, ideally, and who can blame him, actually, for Yuki. Ideally, I would annoyingly, because I've got a feeling that the Red Bulls, quite like the early Ferraris, have got Verstappen as a Schumacher and Perez as a Barrichello. But I would get rid of Perez. I would put Gasly in there, and I would put Vips alongside Perez and AlphaTauri, and then they can develop the cars.
Leclerc purple in Sector 1, and I have noticed the cameramen haven't zoomed in on any men yet this afternoon.
Yeah, good point, actually.
But
the marshals
they must be very bored. But anyway, and Leclerc yellow in Sector 2 again. However, still up on Perez, and we'll be hoping he can put his Ferrari on first, at least give him a little bit of confidence heading into the qualifying session. You'd think with Red Bull's going against, actually, as he heads through the final corner, Red Bull going against their classical faster in the corner, slow on the straight, as Leclerc only goes second. You think this would be their circuit, actually, with the extra power they have. And it does feel weird that Ferrari better in the corners, Red Bull faster on the straight. It just seems a little bit cursed considering the two historical ethos of the teams.
Yeah, it does, actually. I completely agree with you. Shouldn't be right way around at all. Look at that, though. Mercedes, as you say, not good. They're going to have to really put them up after Russell top 3 practice 2. We thought this could be their weekend, but Red Bull Ferrari have shown their true pace, and that is a shame.
I encourage people not to read too much into that, as Sainz is about to cross the line for a pretty unremarkable qualifying run, and
He'll crash anyway, we'll be fine.
Don't read anything into the lap times just yet. We know who's going to be fast, and perhaps the Mercedes are going to be slow, but they set their lap times on the medium tyres, I believe. That's what T-Feed's saying anyway. So I wouldn't read too much into it at this stage. So let's just hope for Mercedes' sake they can get further back up the order. But as I said, I wouldn't read much into these lap times at all.
Qualifying is going to be fun, and W Series is up next. It starts at 7:30. We're on air at 20 past. For all of the action, myself and Megan. Well, Megan will be leading the commentary team as it's W Series, so she's literally alongside me in the commentary box. I'm having to be working around her own notes on the desk as well, because she's got her little notebook on with the grid, and then 3 pages of notes spread out as well, which is the history of the W Series, the car specifications, and the entry list for the race as well. She's got those all spread out on the desk as well, and her headset ready to go. She's going to be in the box in a few moments as well with a cup of coffee, so we are on a quick off, unfortunately, to get ready for W Series. So, yeah, go on.
My notebook's disappeared. I had one that was going for a year, then the dog ate it, and that's not an exaggeration. The dog literally ate the notebook. I think I've gone through this before on air.
You have, yes.
Then I went and took it to school for exam notes, and the next thing I know, my notebook's disappeared. So onto using Wikipedia and having a multitude of tabs open on my monitor.
Works better, trust me. Saves your hand cramp as well, actually, thinking about it. Right, cars are now doing their practice starts. They've all taken the grid, and because we're on a quick off, let's go through the results of the session, which means I'm going to press this button here, and we see the grid. I hope we get that camera angle first of all for the start. They're showing a nice angle there. Right, it's Sergio Perez who tops the third practice session then on a 1:33.04. Charles Leclerc is second. Third on the list as well for Max Verstappen. Fourth for Fernando Alonso. Fifth for Vettel. Sixth Schumacher. Seventh for Carlos Sainz. Magnussen eighth. Albon ninth. And Norris rounds out the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda is 11th, Lance Stroll 12th, Danny Ricciardo 13th, Valtteri Bottas 14th, Lewis Hamilton in 15th place as well. 16th for Gasly, 17th for Russell, 18th for Zhou, 19th for Latifi, and 20th for Esteban Ocon, causing that red flag and hitting the wall earlier on in the session. There's the times then from practice 3 as well. As we come back up to the box, the car's still doing their practice starts out there. Tom, who's going to take pole position? Who's your money on?
Verstappen, I think, is the safe bet. But yes, and as long as Max can hold it together, which on a circuit like this, he hasn't got a record of doing so, but as long as he can hold it together, it'll be Max who takes pole position. And the win tomorrow as well, I'll go with now.
Oh, nice. Okay, straight going for Max, yeah?
Yep.
Nice.
I wonder if we'll see a third Grand Slam in 3 weekends. That would be very interesting.
If that does happen, it'll be the first time as well we've had a Grand Slam at 3 consecutive races. Leclerc did it at Albert Park, Verstappen did it at Imola, and if any driver records a Grand Slam, it'll be the 12th time that a driver has recorded a Grand Slam at a brand new circuit. The last driver to do so was Nico Rosberg at the 2016 European Grand Prix in Azerbaijan, Baku, when for some reason we called it the European Grand Prix. But that should be retroactively changed. Okay, we're going to go because we've got to get over to W Series. So my thanks to you, Tom, for joining me in the comms box.
Thank you very much.
We'll have you back on. Start grid incident involving Ricardo noted not following race director's notes. Checking that.
Ricardo.
Yeah, that would be practice starts on the grid. Carried on the right-hand side after the pit exits as well, but that must be on the grid. All drivers carrying out practice starts must do so by pulling as far forward on the grid as possible, and if necessary should wait for others to carry out a start before getting to a grid position. So I wonder if that has been that he's run forward on somebody else. that he's gone at the same time as somebody else. And it wouldn't really be the Ferrari, because I did see 2 cars flashing by Sainz as well. Anyway, we'll have to find out and report back in qualifying. W Series is up next. My thanks to you, Tom, as well, for joining me in the box. We'll see you again soon. And it's Sergio Perez who's topping practice 3. We'll be seeing you for qualifying shortly. Bye for now.